August 1991, Barrow Neurological Institute in the city of Phoenix, America. In the operating room of this hospital, a 35-year-old woman, Pam Reynolds, is lying down. There is a blood vessel in Pam's brain that has swollen like a balloon and could burst at any moment. The doctors have already told Pam that she has very little time left. There is only one way for her to survive, an extremely risky operation. An operation in which, with the help of machines, her heartbeat will be stopped completely, and then her head will be opened and all the blood will be drained from her brain. It sounds quite frightening, but the doctors had no other option left. They immediately begin this operation. Tape is placed over Pam's eyes, and small speakers are fitted into both of her ears, which are continuously measuring the brain's response through clicking sounds. With one click, the machine turns on and Pam's heartbeat stops. Pam's eyes are taped, and small speakers are fitted into both of her ears, which are continuously measuring the brain's response through clicking sounds. With one click, the machine turns on and Pam's heartbeat stops. There is no response from her brain. No activity, no brain waves, nothing that could be detected to say that Pam is still alive. Because according to every definition of medical science, at this point in time, Pam was dead. But friends, this operation is successful. Pam regains consciousness, and after regaining consciousness, Pam says something that leaves all the doctors present there stunned. Pam says that she was watching this entire operation from above.
I knew it was my
Why body, but I did care.
But I didn't care.
She described everything that happened in the operating room exactly as it really was. She even described the exact shape of the bone-cutting saw which their head was operated on. I remember
the instrument.
Along with this, they also repeated the conversation that took place in the operating room during the surgery. She knew what the doctors were saying to each other. During the operation, Pam said that at that time she felt no pain, no suffering, fear or anxiety whatsoever. But she saw all of this happening from above. All of this was absolutely impossible because at that time her brain was switched off, her eyes were sealed and her ears were blocked. So then how did she actually see and hear all of this in the operating room? As soon as this became known, it created a sensation all over the world. Undergoing brain surgery, she left her body, actually her own operation. Was it Pam's soul that saw all of this happening? Had we finally found out what happens after death? Afterlife, meaning life after death, is one of the most fascinating and mysterious questions in the world. In Indonesia, 85%, in America, 70%, in Brazil, 66%, and in India too, 43% of us believe that there is a life even after death. The soul has been talked about in every major religion in the world. Heaven and hell have been talked about. So the question is, friends, how much truth is there in all of this? Has science found any evidence of an afterlife here? Let's try to understand this in today's video. You are dead. You make good jokes. Would you like to see? Look down. Hello friends, let's begin in the year 1901, when a doctor tried to weigh the soul on a scale. In the American city of Haverhill, a well-known surgeon, Dr. Duncan McDougall, had been trying for 4 years to prove that the soul actually exists. His logic was simple. If the soul really exists, then it should occupy space, and anything that occupies space will also have weight. He thought, why not weigh a person exactly at the moment of death? And when the soul leaves the body, if even a little weight decreases, then that weight would be the weight of the soul. McDougall prepared this entire experiment. He had an entire bed fitted onto a large weighing scale and laid a dying tuberculosis patient on it, and as soon as that patient died, the needle of the scale dropped and the body's weight suddenly decreased by approximately 21 grams. This 21 grams was described as the weight of the soul, and this news spread all over the world. This is still alive in pop culture even today. Bollywood even made an entire movie called 21 Grams, the 21-gram moment. McDougall had conducted this same experiment on a total of 6 patients, and in 1907 he published his findings in the American Medicine Journal. But as soon as the study was published, questions began to be raised about it. Critics said that this decrease in weight was because of the evaporation of water vapor present in sweat and breath. Critics started saying that this must definitely be the reason, actually. So to silence the critics, McDougall took out the weighing scale in his bar and repeated the same experiment on 15 dogs. Do you know what the result was? Not a single dog lost weight after its death. And here McDougall did what no scientist should ever do. Instead of rethinking his theory about the weight of the soul, instead of thinking again, McDougall said that according to the Bible, animals do not have souls. That is why dogs do not lose weight at the time of death. Some Christian people said, wow, that is a great theory. Absolutely, he made a logical point. And friends, this matter was left here. For almost 70 years, science stayed away from this question. But then something happened that brought it back into discussion. In the year 1965, a student at the University of Virginia, Raymond Moody, met a professor. This professor told him that he had died twice, and also told him what happened to him after he died. Then, a few years later, when Moody himself became a professor, a student told him an almost similar story about his grandmother. Two different people had an almost identical story. They had experienced almost the same thing. Moody's ears perked up when he saw this. Patients almost dramatically experienced the psychiatric literature, citric textbooks, the medical literature. Give me any ongoing patient. He began investigating further. Moody started looking for such cases and collecting them. After years of hard work, he eventually collected around 150 such cases, and later, in 1975, he wrote a book based on his research, Life After. Life, in which he gave these experiences a name, near-death experience, short form NDE. Now, scientists believe that no one can die and come back. Therefore, whoever claimed that they had died and then came back was called a near-death experience rather than an after-death experience. This phrase became quite popular after his book, and it is still used to this day. The most shocking thing, friends, is that the stories of all these near-death experiences were almost the same. First, the patient hears the doctor saying that he is dead. Then, he gets the feeling of passing through a long, dark tunnel. After this, the person stands outside his own body and watches the doctors performing CPR on his body from above. After a while, he starts seeing his dead relatives and friends who have come to meet him and help him. And then a light appears, a beam of light, as if it were a being from another universe made only of light. After this, the person's entire life passes before him in a moment. Just think, if your entire life passed before your eyes in a moment, what would you see? An Australian palliative care nurse, Bronnie Ware, spent years asking dying people about their biggest regret. What was the one thing they regretted the most throughout their entire life? And do you know, friends, what the most common answer was? That I wish I had lived the life I wanted to live. Not the one that others expected from me.
Dying people told me.
Expected,
I wish I had lived
and
a
I
life
wish to be
true
happy.
myself.
At the time of
People like
death,
other people
people do not
expect
remember their
and
mistakes.
I
They remember
wish
the
I'd
things
allowed
they never even
myself to be
tried.
happy.
So there is a little advice, friends. Try as many good things as you can in life. Learn new skills. Experiment. Take your dreams seriously, which is a kind of barrier or border, and as soon as he crosses it, he will go into another world. But he has to come back because his time of death has not yet come. The amazing thing is that in different countries around the world, people following different religions all tell almost the same kind of story who have experienced this near-death experience. Cases of afterlife and near-death experiences have also come to light in India. One major interesting case among these is that of Chaju Bania. Chaju died of fever in the 1990s, and his relatives had started preparing for his last rites when suddenly Chaju came back to life, and the story he told after coming back to life was astonishing. Chaju claimed that after death, 4 black messengers came to him and took him to Yamraj. There was also an old woman there who had a pen in her hand, and there were many clerks in front of whom many books were placed. One of these clerks said that we do not want Chaju Bania, we want Chaju Kumhar. Push him back and bring the other one. He still has some life left. Chaju pleaded with those beings to give him some work there but not send him back. Nearby, on a high chair, Yamraj was sitting with a white beard, but no one listened to Chaju. He was pushed back and he came back to life. There is another similar story of Durga Jatav. Durga Jatav had typhoid. After weeks of illness, one day his body became cold, and his family members assumed that Durga was no more. But after some time, Durga started breathing again. He told his family members that 10 people had grabbed him and taken him to another world. When he tried to run away, those people cut off his legs below the knees so that he could not escape. And then they brought him to a place where tables and chairs were set up and 40 to 50 people were sitting. They looked at Durga's papers and said in surprise, "His name is not even on our list. Why have you brought him here? Take him back." To this, Durga said, "How can I go back? I don't even have my legs." Then several pairs of legs were placed in front of him, and Durga recognized his legs, and they were attached back to him. While leaving, he was instructed not to bend his knees, otherwise they would not join back. The most shocking thing about this story is that just a few days after Durga regained consciousness, his sister and a neighbor saw deep marks appearing on Durga's knees. Exactly where, according to him, his legs had been cut. There were no such marks there before. Many such stories of afterlife have emerged in India. In these, Yamdoots take a person away by grabbing them. Then they are presented before a man with a book who keeps the account of every person. Then it is discovered that a mistake has been made and the wrong person has been brought. Therefore, he is then pushed back. Now, friends, this sounds like some story picked up from a religious book. In Hinduism, the journey after death is mentioned in the Garuda Purana. According to this, upon reaching Yamlok, Chitragupta is met, who keeps an account of the entire life. Looking at this account, Yamraj decides what will happen to someone next. Now the question is, how much truth is there in the stories of these people after all? How much can their words be believed? Science does not accept religious books, nor does it accept these anecdotal cases. For science, all these stories are just a collection that cannot be verified. But then, friends, a study comes forward. In December 2001, a study on near-death experiences was published in the Lancet journal. It is one of the most reputed journals in science. In this study, 344 patients in hospitals in the Netherlands between 1988 and 1992 were interviewed who had clinically died after cardiac arrest and were brought back to life through CPR. Every single patient had a complete medical record here, and the interviews were also conducted within just 5 days of being brought back to life. Out of these 344, 62 patients, that is 18%, claimed to have seen the afterlife while they were clinically dead. But believing in the afterlife means believing that consciousness remains alive even after death. And this challenges a very basic assumption of medical science. This is where a concept comes in called the dependence thesis. According to this, throughout our lives, every mental experience depends on the brain. Consciousness, our memories, our recollections, our thoughts, our feelings, all increase and decrease along with brain activity. So there is no reason to believe that immediately after death, this dependence on the brain suddenly ends. That means that an experience without a brain, a consciousness, cannot happen. But if that is the case, then how is this tunnel, seeing your own body from above, all of this possible? Psychologist Susan Blackmore frames this entire debate in one line. Are near-death experiences a glimpse of life after death, or are they visions of a dying brain? Think about it. Among all the people who describe near-death experiences, some things are almost common. A tunnel, deep peace, seeing their own body from outside, and a review of their entire life. Those who believe in this describe it as the biggest evidence of the afterlife. Their logic is simple. Similar experiences are happening among all these people. This means that all of this is real. But according to Dr. Susan Blackmore, this very consistency proves that all of these are visions of a dying human brain. The tunnel that dying people see is the work of our brain cells. The visual cortex does the work of seeing in our brain, and one special thing about its wiring is that it has many more cells for central vision and fewer cells for the vision that we have at the edges. In such a situation, when there is a lack of oxygen in cases of near-death experiences, these cells start firing randomly. And in the middle, where more cells are present, more light is seen, and toward the edges, where there are fewer cells, the light fades away. According to Dr. Blackmore, this same thing appears like a tunnel. Typically, you have a dark tunnel moving through a dark tunnel towards a bright light, to be looking at the world from a position outside your body, and then watching things happening to the body. He also created a simulation of this random firing on a computer, after which a tunnel-like shape began to appear on the screen. Similarly, the deep peace and happiness that is felt is caused by endorphins and morphine, which are released during extreme stress and give feelings of peace and well-being. The reason that your entire life is seen in a moment is because endorphins cause seizures and random activation in the temporal lobe and limbic system. This is the part of the brain where memories are stored. Apart from this, an out-of-body experience, in which it feels like you have come out of your body and are watching your body from a distance. Some scientists explain that this is the brain's way of dealing with a breakdown, and evidence of this was also found in an experiment that had nothing to do with the afterlife and near-death experiences. Fighter jets, actually, when fighter pilots perform maneuvers at very high speeds, due to gravitational forces, their heart is unable to get blood and oxygen to the brain, and the pilots become unconscious. This condition is called GLOC. Its full form is G-force-induced loss of consciousness. To understand this, the US Navy's James Winry repeatedly made volunteers unconscious in a human centrifuge by spinning them around and around in a controlled manner. You probably know what a centrifugal machine is. So, a human centrifuge was made as a type of large centrifugal machine, in which there was a rotating device and people were spun around. So when these people became unconscious, these volunteers described their experiences. And their experiences were exactly the same as what happens in near-death experiences. So the interesting thing was that here no one was dying, nor was any door to another world opening. There was simply a spinning machine, because of which blood and oxygen stopped reaching the brain. The same thing that often happens with people who are dying. Today, friends, what happens in near-death experiences can be explained better by the dying brain hypothesis. Now, regarding the Indian cases, the skeptics' response is that this proves that the entire near-death experience is a product of our culture and our expectations. Absolutely. There is a book. The name is not in it. They got the name wrong. All of that is culturally dependent. If since childhood you have been hearing stories of Yamaraj and Chitragupta, then even when you are dying, you will see Yamdus. In this entire mystery, friends, today science can explain almost everything about near-death experiences. But there are some things for which even science has no answer. And to understand this, we will have to go back to the story of Pam Reynolds. Remember, during Pam Reynolds' surgery, her eyes were taped shut. Her ears were blocked with speakers. Her body temperature was 16 degrees. Her heart was not working at all, and all the activities in her brain had stopped. Pam said that a kind of humming sound pulled her out of her body, and she began watching the operation from near the surgeon's shoulder. She could clearly see the bone-cutting saw, which according to her looked like an electric toothbrush. She also heard a woman's voice saying that the veins and arteries were very small. And then she saw a small point of light that began pulling her towards it. In that light, she saw her dead grandmother, uncle, and many such people who were made of light. Finally, her uncle pushed her and forcibly sent her back into her body, and she fell back into her body with a second electric shock. Now, seeing that small point of light, seeing her grandmother and uncle, feeling the out-of-body experience, meaning seeing her own body from above, science has an answer for all these things. But the exact shape of the bone saw that was described, the saw that was kept outside, and the woman's voice, which was the voice of the head of the cardiovascular team, and the biggest thing, how did she know that she came back to life only after receiving the second electric shock? Even the doctor who performed the operation, Dr. Spetzler, did not remember that 2 electric shocks had been given to bring Pam back to life. But Pam knew this. Being twice give me details. No. An explanation was given that Pam regained slight consciousness in the middle of the operation and formed a picture by seeing the things around her and hearing the voices. But her eyes were taped shut. Both her ears had speakers in them that were making sounds 11 to 33 times every second at the same volume as a subway train. Hearing the conversation that took place during the operation at such a loud volume, that too, for a patient, is almost impossible. Besides this, all the instruments were kept in packets until the operation began. So there was no possibility of seeing them when Pam was coming in for her operation. Dr. Robert Spetzler, who himself performed Pam's operation, said in an interview in 2007 that he did not understand how Pam described the things that happened during the operation. From a scientific perspective, he has no explanation for this. There really are some mysteries here, friends, for which we do not have an answer. Scientists conducted another study to conclusively prove the afterlife. Dr. Sam Parnia conducted this study called AWARE. Its design was simple. In areas of hospitals where cardiac arrests happen the most, high shelves were installed near the ceiling, and on top of each shelf an image was placed that could only be seen by looking down from above, that is, from the ceiling. Around 1,000 such shelves were installed in several hospitals. The logic was clear. If during a near-death experience people really see their bodies near the ceiling, then someone or the other would also see this image. But if these visions are only occurring in the brain, then they would not be able to tell about this image. Over 4 years, this study was conducted on more than 2,000 people associated with cardiac arrest in 15 hospitals in America, the UK and Austria. Out of them, 101 patients completed all the stages of the interviews. Out of these 101, 9 claimed to have had a near-death experience, and 2 had detailed memories of the surroundings of their room. But this study also did not produce any conclusive evidence. One of these 2 people was so sick that he could not even be interviewed. And when the other patient had a cardiac arrest, there was no shelf installed there in that room. The truth is, friends, some mysteries are still mysteries even today. Science has an explanation for lights and tunnels. It has an explanation for seeing your dead relatives. It also has an explanation for seeing your own body from outside. But explaining something and finding an answer are 2 different things. Cases like Pam Reynolds still exist today, like a crack in the wall of this entire theory, for which neither believers nor skeptics have an answer. However, as I always say, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and there can be nothing more extraordinary than the afterlife. Therefore, something being unexplained is not proof of the afterlife. Once upon a time, lightning strikes were also unexplained. Their answer came from physics, not from the anger of God. What actually happens after death? This is the only question in the world whose answer every single human being will find out for themselves one day. The only thing is that no one has been able to come back to tell us about it until today. See you in the next video with another fascinating movie, mystery, or true story. Until then, take care, stay curious, and keep exploring.